also is on his personal capacity in the tech industry. So it's only fitting for you to be here on both capacities. So thank you again for being out here. And before we get started with today's program, if y'all can just silence your cell phones. If you need to take a phone call, please feel free to step outside. We just want to be respectful for all of our speakers and moderators that will be up on stage. And before you put your phones away, I also want to alert you that on your tables, there's a QR code. Please scan that QR code as it will give you today's agenda, our speaker bios, and also information on our important sponsors that are helping us out today. Well, with that, I want to thank some of our committee members who helped make this possible. Vic Thopper, Dr. Pushkar, Satish Mandua, and Gaurav Shaker, thank you all for being here and for really helping us out. Our board members, as you all know, it's a volunteer board. They put their time in outside of their official work to help us make these events a success. So thank you again. And of course, who many of you met, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Neeti, our Chamber's fearless leader for the next 2 years. Neeti is also the first female chair of the Chamber in our 26-year history. So Neeti is doing some big work for the Chamber. And moving out to our outstanding sponsors. As you all know, the Chamber as a nonprofit, our sponsors are so vital and very important to us, especially when we host these important events. I want to start off by giving a huge thank you to our event underwriter, TCS and Abhinav Goyal. Thank you all so much for your support here today. We have a great panel lined up with them here today, so thank you again, Abhinav and TCS. And to our VIP event sponsor for yesterday's VIP reception, to EPAM. To John and Indranil, thank you gentlemen for your support, for EPAM support, and for making last night a huge success for us. Thank you. And to our platinum sponsors, Aptive, Monk, Wilson Mandela, Kintelli, and Truist, thank you all so much for your continued support over the years. Scadia and Yeshvik, thank you so much. And to our silver sponsors, DFW Airport and New York Life. And thank you to all of our bronze sponsors and our media sponsor, DCEO. If you guys haven't checked out their booth, they're out there earlier today. So thank you again. Please scan your QR code to get more information on all of our sponsors. But please give me another round of applause for all of our sponsors and what they're doing here today. A quick note, I don't know if y'all saw, as we're convening folks here for our technology conference, I think it's timely that we get people here today because the Trump administration is rolling out their AI guardrails this morning. And I think that's very timely because some way, somehow, I think that's going to impact some of the folks in the room here today as to what that looks like. It's been talked about for a long time, but now we're starting to at least see some movement on it. And I think some of our speakers will touch about what that looks like as these guardrails are rolled out and what that looks like from a technology standpoint. So with that, I would now like to introduce on stage the Chamber's Chair, Neeti Kaithan, and who's also the President and CEO of Accelerate Consulting and an advisor to Black Box. Thank you, Neeti, for being here this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be really brief because let's face it, you're not here to listen to me, but to hear our esteemed speakers and leaders and discuss a very important topic that we cannot afford to sit out. Artificial intelligence, as we all here to listen about, is no longer a topic for the boardrooms or college and university research labs. It's here, it's in our businesses, in our lives, in our homes, and we need to embrace it. The real question is if AI is here or not, but the real question is, are we chasing it or we are leading it? It's really important to know the difference and to actually accept it. I believe the businesses and communities that have the courage to show up, have the courage to adopt and change and pivot and be part of history are the businesses and communities that are going to do well. And looking around this room today, this morning, I feel we're off to a good start. So I urge you to ask the difficult questions, challenge our speakers, learn, grow, and just leave with maybe one idea or one thought this morning that you can implement in your business, in your lives on Monday morning. Enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your morning, and enjoy the conference. And thank you so much for all your support in being here. Thank you.
All right, so now I'd like to invite on stage, as we kick off our first keynote, Michael Fay and Will Anderson. As they're making their way to the stage, I'm going to give a brief bio of Michael and Will. Y'all can also look it on the QR code, but Michael Fay is Island's co-founder and CEO. Fay was president and CEO at Symantec. Prior to Symantec, he was president and CEO of Blue Coat. Prior to that, Mike was EVP and GM for enterprise products at McAfee and CTO of Intel Security, playing a pivotal role in Intel's acquisition of McAfee for $7.7 billion in 2010. Fay holds a degree in engineering physics and mathematics, which is nothing to sneeze at, from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and was co-author of Security Battleground, an executive field manual providing a playbook for security-obligated executives coping with the new realities of cybersecurity's responsibilities to the board. In addition to this, I want to point out something. So I did some research on Michael. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the impressive work he's done. But I just want to point out an impressive quote in DCEO about an article he did. It says, Mike Fay has built Island into one of Texas's most valuable startups and one of the nation's most influential cybersecurity firms. So as we kick this off, I want y'all to keep that in the back of your minds. And moderating conversation is a dear friend of the Chamber, Will Anderson, who's the editor-in-chief for Dallas Business Journal. With that, I'll let you gentlemen kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here at TECHCONNEX today. I'm really excited to sit down with you, Michael, because you've built something really rare, as we just heard. We throw around the word unicorn a lot, and full apologies that in the media we love that. We love a unicorn in the headline, it's fun. But we often, I think that can make us miss the point that they're extremely rare. The best numbers I could find were about 0.07% of venture-backed companies become unicorns, reaching that $1 billion or more valuation while still privately held. And that's not all startups, that's venture-backed startups. So it's a fraction of a fraction, and yet you built this company with, I believe last publicly kind of revealed $5 billion valuation, hundreds of employees, all built around what might seem like a straightforward idea of a web browser, a secure web browser built for the enterprise. So I think maybe that's where we should start. And I think that'd be very interesting to hear about how you built this and created this. Take us back. It was founded 2020, right? Yep. So how did you know at that time that a secure web browser for the enterprise was worth building a whole company around?
Yeah, we lost our minds a little bit. When you think about it, your laptop that you use today, is it really different than 30 years ago? It's a little thinner, and the little rubber button we used to use for a mouse is now a trackpad, but that's it. You know, where we go is different, but what we do on it is very similar. And the browser itself is almost 40 years old in its current design. The example I use, if you take a 12-year-old right now, and you let them use the browser 40 years ago, they'd succeed. If you gave them a phone, they would stare at it and wonder, what the heck is that thing? What's that circle do? And do I do it first? And where do I get a phone number? So you literally had this idea that this was just the status quo, and it was the status quo almost forever. And then we saw the standardization by Microsoft and Google and all the other browser makers on the Chromium open source project, which is what sits behind Chrome. And they continue to innovate to the consumer, to the marketing effort. And nothing was done for the enterprise. And so we saw that we could stand on the shoulders of those giants and really think about the end user experience and how can we make a knowledge worker better. There had to be something you could do to make a knowledge worker better than just a consumer. Then we thought about the IT stack that supports it, and we could simplify that around that control plane. And then finally build cybersecurity into it. So we pitched the idea to Sequoia and a couple others, and we got a term sheet 24 hours later, and we were off and running. But it was a scary 2 years while we were in stealth, building an expensive product everybody gets for free.
And it was something, so then, that you're saying it was kind of had been left behind. The browser hadn't been touched.
Honestly, it was fear. There were a bunch of companies that thought about attacking the browser item, but how do you go up against Google? How do you go up against Microsoft? You know, industry legends like Mark Andreessen failed rolling out Netscape at the time. How do you do that? And we believe that cybersecurity as well as IT simplification would reach the point that it was breaking. Over half of cybersecurity spend can be directly attributed to the browser being a non-collaborative member of the estate. Most of your companies backhaul every piece of traffic to some scrubbing station instead of just saying the browser would do it. And that was just, if you will, the utter decision that consumers were all that mattered and the enterprises would use what was left over. But the browser became your operating system. And having an operating system you don't control, you don't own, you don't govern, you can't even get support on, just created an environment where we felt if we innovated and focused on it, we could have an impact, and that's what we've been able to do.
That's a really interesting point about kind of the architecture of the web and how you can think about it that way. You were saying, though, that you had kind of finished your, as Kamal mentioned, many different corporate roles, CTO, executive level, and you'd kind of retired and you were looking for something to do. I mean, walk us through that window of time before you kind of kicked it off with Sequoia. Like, I guess you were tired of sitting around?
So I retired 2 weeks before COVID. I wanted more time with my family, and I got it all day, every day. And a buddy of mine brought this idea of a secure browser to me, and I just wanted to fund it. I really didn't want to be a part of it. I wasn't excited about a secure browser. And I wanted to give him constructive feedback on why it was mildly interesting and not incredibly interesting. And so I went and worked on it. And as I went on it, I always like to not just throw rocks, I like to give suggestions. I started to make suggestions about, well, this should be about the knowledge worker. This should be about the future of work. Cybersecurity is along for the ride. It's not secure browser, it's an enterprise browser, and here's how everything would change. And darn if I didn't convince myself that this was going to be the next big thing I had to be a part of. So I sheepishly called him back and said, let's build this new company together. And that's how it started. It was very innocent, and it just caught me up.
Very interesting. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you started the company?
I don't know if I would have done it. You forget how hard things are, and you remember how good it is on the other side. We're very proud of what we've built. We like the company that we've built. We like the people we've built it with. I think everything we've gone through has made us who we are. Sure, we could have avoided some lessons along the way, but all in all, I have to say I don't think that changed very much.
And you've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for more than around 20 years, you said. So, AI company, working with Sequoia, which is a huge name in the Bay Area, the natural impulse might be to found it in California, which you had worked in California for a bit. So why not?
Yeah, I actually commuted to California in all the roles you mentioned. None were local. I got addicted to the area, and raising a family here was so attractive that I just got on a plane and went to California to do my job, and then came back to Texas to live my life. When we were going to found the island, Doug Leone, the chairman of Sequoia, who's on my board, and the godfather of venture capital out in the Bay, one of them, we debated, should we found in the Bay? It was very much a concern. In the past, Bay Area startups would get somewhere around 50 to 75% more valuation, what investors would value them at, than those outside of it. And then Boston started to keep up a little bit, but Texas was nowhere in that conversation. And in COVID, the business climate shifted so hardcore that even the die-hard Bay Area was saying, you know what, you might as well go with Dallas. At least you might end up staying there. And that's how they started to view their startups, is they would incubate them in California, but they knew they would leave before they were substantive. So they stopped wanting to do that. And so we were one of the first big ones. Our first round of seed funding was 30 million. We were one of the first big seed funding to go outside of the Bay. And now New York and Austin and Dallas and others are, very much a center of those funds. And the Bay Area is no longer a requirement. In a lot of ways, it's a detriment.
Yeah, we've seen in the VC numbers quite a lot of money flowing to Texas. There are funds dedicated to Texas. There's a stock exchange. Exchanges coming to Texas are already here. But they're still nowhere near quite at Silicon Valley levels. But is there also a sense that you'd be a bigger fish in a smaller pond?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of value to being one of the sexy startups in an area without hundreds of them. Like right now, if I was in the Bay Area, I'd be discussing, my next hot hire, are they going to Anthropic or me, right? And I wouldn't want to have that conversation, right? That's not something I want to compete with. If you're building for the long term, Dallas can definitely be an advantage to the Bay Area. I was speaking to somebody. When I built an inside sales function in the past, and I had it based in the Bay Area, the people that worked that, because it's an entry-level sales job, the people that worked that would be staying in an apartment of 3, 4, 5 people. And their need to get promoted, their need for a better job was an imperative that was number one. It was in the Maslow's law. Like, they had to go. So you had these employees that desperately had to get promoted or leave for their lives to continue. In Dallas, we could give them a quality of life where they were happy to be doing that. They were willing to work with you. Loyalty could be a part of their decision-making process. So while it may be harder at times to find a particular role or two, you're not churning roles daily. And that matters and is huge. Brain drain is so much more painful than having to take a little bit more effort to hire somebody. And I believe in Dallas, your brain drain will be a function of your company, not of the economics of viability. And it's a very different way to see things, but it's true.
That's a really interesting point and puts a very concrete example on, we hear about DFW's business friendliness all the time, but what does that mean? Well, I'd like to make sure that we talk about, the big thing in the room today, which is AI. You obviously use it in your company. Well, actually, no, let's start there. So walk us through how you use AI at Island, and any maybe surprising areas where it shows up in the business.
Yeah, so probably somewhere north of 90%, I think 92 is the last number I saw, of our code is written by AI. So we have 200 software developers before AI, and we have 200 after AI, and we'll have 300 before long. For us, the idea of faster development just means that. It's not I need less people, I do more with what I can do. We're a disruptor. The adjacencies that we can go after are almost infinite. I'd take 1,000 engineers if I could afford them. So for us, AI is a weapon, not necessarily a cost savings model. Being a startup, a well-funded startup, the rest of the org is very different on how they use it. We use it as an enabler to take out headcount over it. It is an important part of it. And we've had to become strong experts in it. Long before everybody got all excited about it, we were leveraging it, we were using it to simplify our worlds. We took things like integrations. We used to have an integration funnel. As a browser, you can integrate a million things. It'd take about a week to week and a half for integrations. We've now got that down to about 6 minutes. And it's better tested, it's more robust, more capable than it ever was before. On our go-to-market side, how we do our research, how we build our ROI, how we build our business proposals, fundamentally different again. Our customer support items are different. Even how the product understands if it has a problem and creates that problem becomes very different. So we decided about a year ago that everything would start AI first. If you wanted to get a rec passed, you wanted to hire somebody, you had to explain why we needed it and we couldn't use an agent for it. And it just forced us all to come face to face with that. Glad we did, and it is a world of change right now. It is absolutely dramatic what can be done.
I like that. So it's like you're reckoning with it and openly discussing kind of its power to change and all that. You kind of find ways to, again, do even more, not from an efficiency standpoint. So it's not cost cutting, it's maximizing productivity.
Yeah, and it's also getting educated enough that AI is not Claude. That's not what AI means. I love AI, I use Claude. Okay, great. You're not ready to a company for its AI usage. When you really use AI, it's multiple models. One judges, one creates, one documents. There's the agents work in harmony. You have to get to that level as an executive to understand what it really does. So yes, getting on things like Claude and playing with that is a good start, but how do you architect a real company with that? And what are the roles of that and how does it work? That was a re-level, and it was actually scary to do that. I took a month where if it wasn't customer facing, I was behind closed doors with experts, just talking, learning, going. And now I have the confidence to embark on massive initiatives with 3 and 4 people. But we know how to do it, we know how to do it right. And this other scary part about AI is your first inclination of it. I'll give you a great topic example. Let's say you're designing a pilot for the Air Force. The first versions of that pilot, they taught them to fly like we teach our pilots to fly. The first time they let AI just do it itself, it dominated the other AI models, literally 100% kill rate, because they weren't flying like we teach our pilots. Our pilots fly to stay alive. Those AI pilots flew to kill. Very different. You have to stop looking at what your person does and say, can I automate that? You have to re-look at your business and say, what can I do? If I had infinite capacity, how would I change this? Think about how you handle your customers, how customer support works. Customer support in the old world, they come to you. They do that. In the new world, you're monitoring their systems. You're coming to them saying, I see you have an issue. Here are the things you need to do. These are different approaches. The old way, I just want to answer your question as best as I can. Okay, yeah, AI can help you on that, but the reality is a person might do it better. But if you flip it around, now you have a true advantage. And that's where we've had to take our line of thinking and where I'd love to push everybody here is don't think about automating the task you do today. You have to re-architect your company, and that's what unlocks the value.
That's really interesting, because I've heard that the best reach out, build, serve, source.
Exactly. It is amazing what you can do. The focus on getting rid of the mundane has distracted people from the competitive advantage that AI brings. And I think it starts because your first exposure is limiting the mundane from your life. Hey, read this document for me, write this email. All value, all value. The same exact value that every other person gets from it. That is not a competitive differentiator. Your use of Claude will not differentiate you from anybody else that's mildly educated. It's your architecture, your company that can differentiate you in the embracing of that. And that is where executives will separate themselves.
Interesting. It goes back to architecture. If I could jump onto that for a second, because we started talking about the original idea of a secure web browser. Now we're talking about infinite capacity to change and iterate and grow. Will AI and a chatbot, does that make a browser obsolete eventually?
So for us, we start with the browser, and then we moved and built an extension to run in everybody else's browser. Then we ran on the desktop. Then we built a whole network infrastructure to take out the Palo Altos and Zscalers of the world. Then we built stuff to take out the VDI, and we just continued down that path. So who knows? But the reality is there's some interface that you're going to be doing, whether it's co-work or something else, and that is going to have to be part of the collaborative ecosystem. We're very fortunate. We're the front door to AI. We're the way you get in. We're the way that operates. We're a control plane where it needs to be. The last mile is where the massive part of the compute takes place outside the GPUs in the data center. Your network, your stuff your CIO bought, worthless. No longer required. The faster you realize that and start getting off of it, the better off you are. If you own data centers and they're not running your own AI infrastructure, you just have a depreciating asset. You want to get off that because the cost structures of everything else are fundamentally changing in such a dramatic way. That piece of real estate is way more valuable as real estate than it is as the data center. And unless you're running an AI-centric data center where you get access to your own GPUs, And that's a whole different ballgame. And those of you that are in that space certainly don't need advice from me.
It's really interesting. You kind of addressed this with your own workforce, but I do want to ask, bigger picture, do you think AI means more people working in tech in 10 years as a whole, or less?
I am worried what AI does to the job market in the short term. I am optimistic about AI's value, and I do think that in the world of cybersecurity, AI is the answer, not the problem. It will change things. If you use an analogy, I think we all would appreciate if there was a cop standing outside our front door, we'd be safer. Why don't we have it? Can't afford it. With AI, we can in the cyber world. So we can do things we could never do before. We can literally change the economics against the attacker. They've always had the advantage, we can flip it around. So I'm incredibly bullish on what it does. But I do think this generation graduating right now is in a bad spot. They're caught in the middle of a revolution that they were not enabled for. I'll leave off what college it is when my daughter goes to a local high-end college here. And their gut move at first was to block AI. They even have instructors that don't let them bring Apple Watches into the class and all sorts of other stuff. And I went down in there just as fired up as you could be and worked with instructors to flip it around to where now they're going to have an AI interview process for testing. You sit down in front of an AI agent and it talks to you and you discuss the topic and you see what you really know. And that AI system will judge your understanding of it, and that's where your grade comes from. The universities were so slow to adopt AI as an answer, instead thought of it as a problem. Most universities invested more on cheating technology detection than they did on their own AI research. It was appalling. So we do have, unfortunately, the kids in college now, and the ones that came out, last couple of years, might be a lost group that is going to have a bit of a challenge. After that, I think it's there. There are some things we could do, like with tax code, to fundamentally change our future on that, where you could literally incent research and development, but disincent taking out low-wage jobs. So imagine if the cost for a token to take your order at McDonald's virtually was so high you just kept the employee and that tax wore off over time. You could take a slow ramp into impacting the economy. We want drug makers and cancer researchers and DNA students to have at it. Go spend all the GPUs there. Go spend all the power there. But right now, video games are going to chew up as much GPU as cancer research. And maybe we should think about that while we have a shortage. And helping McDonald's sell a hamburger cheaper might not be in our best interest with AI right now. Long term, yes, we don't want those jobs should evolve. But yeah, I do think the job market is going to be hit in very interesting ways. There will be jobs that pay more than ever, and there will be jobs that don't exist. And so the have and have-nots underneath the current just capitalistic, tear we're on, I do fear what it does for that period of time. Now, with that said, you think about other moments we've had, depressions in the market and the like, a 4 or 5 year painful period is part of embracing the future. It happens. So I don't want to be cavalier about it, but it is something we're going to have to suffer through, because if another country does, we will fundamentally regret it for the rest of our existence.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point about the transition. When you see that kind of technology happening, it makes sense that there would be a natural transition period. And how do you maybe smooth it over with policy intervention, with business leadership, like we're talking about here? One more thing on AI, actually, that I do want to get to. I can see our clock counting down. It's red staring in the face. So you're all about a secure browser, secure portal, because you're working with big enterprise clients. They really value that. How do you balance the speed afforded by AI and all its ability, huge capacity to change, iterate, grow, with the need for security? How do you balance those two goals?
Yeah, it comes down to architecture. So I don't think a lot of people understand how you actually set up an AI innovation circle. So I'll just go through it real quick. When you think about using AI to create something, the first thing you do is you give it context. Think of this as information. Hallucinations, i.e. bad decision making, happen with humans when we have too much data not enough data or wrong data, right? There's also some nefarious things, but let's assume we're all good people doing the right thing. Same thing with AI. So the first thing you do is provide a context. You run your model to have it produced for you, then you destroy it. You reapply the context to a new model, you run it again, and it should produce the exact same results. If it doesn't, it's getting context from places you don't understand. It's reading Reddit, it's reading social media, it's getting other documents. And if you don't understand the context it's coming from, you don't understand how it's decision making, it is not ready to be that innovation engine for you. That's step one. So you have to test it. Step two, you have to build a judge. Judges have to be along the whole process. So it's going to generate a legal document. You know, we hear all the challenges with legal document and citing. What a flipping easy problem to solve. Just strictly an architecture issue. Documents are created, a judge, which is a different AI engine, runs and checks all the sources. We know it can do that. You give a source now. Is this accurate? Yes, no. Great. You literally put judges in place for each of the functions that get produced. And the smaller the judge is, I just do footnotes. I just do the math. I just do this research. I just validate this. You get that. Now, I'll give you in my own personal life a great example. I travel a lot. And a lie-down seat is priceless. So when I book travel, I go to an agent to go figure out travel for me. And the first thing it does is say, where are all the lie-down seats that could possibly get him there so that I can sleep on that flight? And I will tell you, Claude generated every research, probably half the flights that suggested didn't exist on this earth. There's an American Airlines flight direct from here to Israel, for example. There isn't one. There was one 5 years ago. Still citing it. I put a little judge in and said, everything it suggests, please go out and validate that these flights are going at the dates I suggest, solve that problem right there. All it's going to do is that little judge. So that's the next step in your innovation engine, is you have to put a judge and a control point across all of that. If you get those, now you can move incredibly fast. Now you can start to move at the speed of AI and do more with it. And there's some other things you want to think about, you know, as far as what data goes where and what risk you take on. But at the end of the day, those core componentries are kind of the answer. And I will tell you, it's amazing how many people think one AI is the answer. Think of it like you do your own people. There are generalists, there are experts, there are people with time and focus. You want to think about AI the same way. It is not one thing, it's not one company, it's going to be a mix of it. And now price comes into the equation, which is the other part of it. The cost to do things with the different models is wildly different. You have to understand that, just like you understand your own supply chain. If you were designing a shirt and manufacturing a shirt, and you chose material from India, and then you decided I want it, assembled in Poland, and I want it shipped to the U.S., if that's your business, you look at that really hard and say, is that the right way to do that? Is that the right place to get our sourcing from? Is that the right cost structure I'm going to be in? And you might refine that. Same goes with the models. What one agent charges for versus how another one's done. Simple thing like a preprocessor on a request to AI can change the token usage by a factor of 10. And so they're understanding that cost structure now is becoming part of it as well, where you won't be one size fits all model. The cost structure will come into it as well. So it's expertise, it's cost. It's everything we've had to do with our employees. You don't take your number one employee and have them work your front desk. The cost structure wouldn't make sense. They could do it. They do a great job. Probably the best front desk worker we ever had. But you don't do it. Same is going to go with AI. There's a very big set of understanding there that we as leaders have to deliver.
Interesting. So it's a lot of the same principles, but thinking of it in a different way. Like
yes.
Well, I know AI is a huge topic. I'm almost loath to move on, but I did want to mention a few other things before we wrap up. First of all, you've raised a lot of venture capital, right? I think $730 million for Island, just for Island. That's a lot.
It is a lot. To be clear, I have $400 million still in books. I like big war chests, not like spending.
You're also a venture capitalist yourself. You talked about maybe you're going to invest in Island initially. Can you tell us about your investment firm?
Yeah, so I'm in a company called Picture Capital with 3 other founders. We've invested about $4 million of LP's money into seed stage startups in cybersecurity. We've done that. The company's a little under 2 years old. We'll raise another fund coming up here. It was a very natural thing to do because we personally invested in cybersecurity companies for years. It just gave the ability to put a 02 on our check size. So, but it's so much fun. I love helping young entrepreneurs with them.
And you mentioned seed stage and cybersecurity focus, obviously that makes sense with your background. Anything else about your investment thesis of what you're looking for in terms of industry or size of check, anything?
Yeah, so, well, when you go seed stage, the team matters immensely. And now we have to put the team up against AI. We have to understand what they can do. So it used to be when you would present your business plan to a VC, it was like, I would tell you, I raised with 11 slides. I raised $30 million on 11 slides, and one was a title and one was a thank you. I got away with that. Today, they would expect a much more well thought out business plan because you can. You can game theory that out with AI, you can build that out, you can go deeper, And it's not even that we believe that that business plan is the real plan, but if you can't do that exceptionally well with the technology at your disposal, you're going to be fumbling around when we give you the cash to run fast. And so it's always a test.
I see. So thinking of it, as you were saying before, as a competitive advantage. Who knows how to use this in a way that can differentiate themselves, not even if it's the business plan, but the effort to create the business plan and think through it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we have hopefully it doesn't get out because it's one of the things we use, but when you bring in that business plan, we look at your branding. Your branding should be tight. In the past, nobody cared. I know it was the name Zero Abstraction originally. We knew the name would never stick. We didn't want it to stick, so we chose a crazy name. That was okay. No longer. You can have a full branding conversation with expertise, and it should show up in that element. And if you're not doing that, then you're not aware of what's possible, and you're not aware of what a couple hours of work can get you. That scares us as investors.
Michael, can we do a lightning round real quick? Because I think it's going to be a lightning round actually. I can go through 2 or 3, just give me your off-the-cuff answer. What's your favorite AI tool? Not your company's. I guess you're not a Claude guy.
No, I love Claude. Okay. Claude would be that. Cowork is really cool. I love Cowork.
Is there something you'll never use AI for in your personal life?
No. I've used it to write an apology letter. I think more information and a second point of view that you trust. I mean, there's a reason why AI gets all your health information. You know, it's the anonymity of it feels right. Yeah, I think there's very little I won't use it for.
Is there something you believe about the future of work that others generally don't?
I'm a little anti-college right now. I believe that the universities in the current system are producing inferior AI bots. When you think about AI, what we do at the college layer is the AI part. What the PhDs do, where they're inventing and they're thinking about the future and they're building that, that's the real focus of who we have to become. And the faster colleges dump this concept of generalized information. In fact, we can ask people a date anymore. Like, when did this happen? Like, we don't need that. We need to get in college. Needs to be our chance to do research. It needs to be our chance to build things and create things and run real companies at that level. Not sit there and go through tasks that were so rudimentary that we have to block AI because everyone will get 100% on it. If everybody can get 100% on it, then we don't need to test for it. We need to take it up to the next level. You know, calculating a company's accounting. No, let's evaluate companies against each other and understand what they're going to do and where will success come from and use different models to do that. So right now, I think that the future work will be by those that embrace that. And I think the traditional college graduates are at a disadvantage until we change that infrastructure.
That competitive advantage, how can you find that? Okay, last one. What's the most overused buzzword in AI or tech?
Trillion. Everything's worth trillions. I don't know. The most overused word is you know what? I think the fair answer I can give you, all the hype is justified. This is not a hype cycle. It is absolutely justified. If your world hasn't fundamentally changed from AI, you better make it. How you raise your kids, how you cook your meals, you know, how you run your business. These are all things that I can tell you are dramatically different when you put the elbow grease. What you were taught and how to do things is certainly interesting, but it is inferior to what you can do now and you need to route. So that the hype, it's very little overused. If anything, we should get more media coverage on AI. It is that important.
Well, I think that sets a great tone for the rest of the day. So please, round of applause for Michael Kelly, CEO and co-founder of Island. And I'll take that tomorrow.
We could hear you speak for all day, Michael. That was tremendous. Thank you so much. We have just a quick gift for you, Michael. He's going to come just give us a token of the change of gratitude. Same for you, Will, and we'll take a quick pic with y'all. While we wrap it up, more folks are trickling in. So thanks, folks, for coming in. I did forget to mention one of our other elected officials, Mr. Suresh Mundava, who's on the Frisco ISD School Board. Thank you so much, Mr. Mundava, for being here, in addition to Councilmember Bob Kerr. We're going to go into more networking right now. We're going to change up the stage for our TCS AI panel. So we're going to change the stage up. We're going to get the stage ready, get our panels ready. So please feel free to network, mix and mingle. We'll be on the honor policy, so I expect y'all to be back here around 11:05 so we can get the panel kicked off for exciting AI panel. So see y'all here in a little bit. Again, Will, Michael, thank y'all so much for your time.
And reunite generations of families. The wireless carriers and manufacturers that keep North America intertwined and entertained. And the city water utilities that turn on every profession. Splash, shower, and sip. Who's behind the retailers that sell products that fix millions of kitchen sinks, scraped knees, teenage fashion emergencies? The banks that offer credit card accounts that fuel municipalities. And the car manufacturers that innovate new ways for wind and air. Who's behind the pharmaceutical trailblazers developing new medical innovations? The shipping companies that deliver packages from Tucson to Toronto on time for the holiday season. And even the marathon makers who get millions of packed to achieve their dreams. Who's behind them all? Tata Consultancy Services, helping businesses harness technology to make every day better.
Plano, and we have a loan and another
through engrossing features of high-class daily content and award-winning events. DCEO Magazine connects the most respected and relevant business leaders in Dallas. From our nonprofit and corporate citizenship awards to our women's leadership and diversity, inclusion, and impact symposiums, we bring together, educate, and ultimately inspire leaders to create a better workplace for everyone. Because where the Dallas business community goes, others will follow. Join us, partner with DCEO, and help shape the future of business and workplaces. Go to dmagazine.com/DCEO Media to learn more.
You're a visionary. You see the waves of change before they even start. You are ready to innovate and disrupt to stay competitive. We help you do that. As the leading digital transformation and product engineering firm, we enable top businesses across a variety of industries to do what they do best, faster, and at scale.